evicted, stripped. But Andrew Mountbatten Windsor holds a secret weapon. A book deal worth £25 million. His silence has a price. And the explosion is set to rewrite the history of the crown. This is what the king fears the most. Crown forced exile, from Windsor opulence to Sandringham's uncertain destiny castle. With the former Prince Andrew now counting down the days until he moves out of his Grand Royal Lodge mansion to the Sandringham estate, it has been reported he could opt for a money-making move. The imminent departure of Andrew from Royal Lodge, his 30-room Windsor residence, is far more than a simple change of address. It is a searing symbol of his degradation and isolation within the monarchy. The transfer to a much smaller home on the Sandringham estate, orchestrated by his older brother, the king, seals his fate of permanent ostracization. The move is made even more poignant by the enforced separation from his former wife, Sarah Ferguson, who, despite their divorce, had continued to live with him. While it appears that Andrew's new home and living allowances will be taken care of privately by his older brother the king, the same can't be said for Fergie. This financial disparity has heightened the intrigue surrounding how both disgraced royals plan to monetize their intimate knowledge of the crown's inner workings. The price of silence, the £25 million time bomb. Since they were both stripped of the titles and told to leave their Royal Lodge mansion, speculation has swirled about the futures of disgraced Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and his former wife, Sarah Ferguson. Reports have suggested she could be tempted to write a tell-all book as a means of making cash. However, according to the Daily Mail, the story that some publishers consider a greater coup than Fergie's would be that of Andrew's. If he were to release a memoir, he would be following in the footsteps of his nephew Prince Harry, who memorably published his controversial autobiography, Spare, almost 3 years ago. One literary agent told the publication that Andrew could potentially command a £25 million advance for a book, were he to agree to do it. They explained that with the right ghostwriter asking him the right questions, we could see the history of the House of Windsor completely rewritten with what he knows. He's a time bomb waiting to explode. This figure of £25 million is not just a market valuation, it is a measure of the fear his silence commands. The notion that Andrew, who grew up at the very heart of royal power, could unleash intimate family secrets about his brother the king and the monarchy, transforms his potential biography into the most explosive literary event in recent history, potentially overshadowing even the emotional impact of Spare. The literary agent's assessment reveals a brutal reality. Andrew possesses the power to re-narrate the history of a 1,000-year-old institution, and that power is quantified by an astronomical price tag. Warning: the emotional reckoning, loyalty versus financial retaliation. It is pointed out that if he were to go into detail about his life and those of his family, including the king, it would see his Sandringham home and other allowances arranged for him almost certainly go. Here lies Andrew's Shakespearean dilemma. The monarchy has orchestrated his exile, and his continued subsistence is tied to the goodwill of King Charles III. Should he choose the tell-all route, the £25 million compensation would afford him financial independence for life, but it would cost him the last vestiges of his institutional connection, the roof over his head and any residual royal allowance. The act of publishing would, therefore, be a final act of financial vengeance and complete self-exile. The psychological tension is agonizing. Can the pain of rejection truly outweigh the security of the last royal lifeline? The people's verdict, the Epstein scandal and the demand for accountability. It comes as a poll revealed that 3/4 of Britons believe Andrew should have to give evidence to the U.S. Congress about his links to pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. American legislators criticized the king's brother for hiding from them after the former prince ignored a request to sit for a transcribed interview. The YouGov findings revealed 75% of people questioned said Andrew should have to testify, while 9% said he should not, and 16% did not know. In the 25 to 49 age group, some 78% believed he should give evidence, compared with 69% of over 65s. Of the 4,516 adults questioned, people over 65 were more likely to say Andrew should not testify, at 16%, compared with 5% of 25 to 49-year-olds. This poll data is utterly damning. 75% is not just a majority, it is a widespread moral condemnation from the British populace. It shows that the Epstein scandal remains the deepest shadow cast over the monarchy, and that the institution's attempts to silence and isolate Andrew have failed to satisfy the public's thirst for justice. The generational divide is particularly telling. Younger citizens, 25 to 49, are significantly more uncompromising in their demand for transparency than the older generation. This suggests that the monarchy's reputation is rapidly eroding among newer demographics who demand accountability without compromise. The incendiary email and the king's final punishment. The king officially stripped his disgraced brother of his HRH style and his prince title, and removed his dukedom from the role of the peerage over Andrew's serious lapses of judgment. The move followed the publication of posthumous memoirs by Andrew's accuser, Virginia Giuffre, and the U.S. government's release of documents from Epstein's estate. It emerged Andrew had emailed Epstein in 2011 saying, "We're in this together," 3 months after he claimed he had broken all contact with the pedophile. The former Duke of York has for many years faced allegations he sexually assaulted a teenage Ms. Giuffre after she was trafficked by Epstein. Andrew strenuously denies the accusations. The king's punishment was not arbitrary, it was the inevitable response to the accumulation of evidence and the irreparable reputational damage. The discovery of the "we're in this together" email serves as the emotional evidence of a connection Andrew had vehemently denied, shattering his credibility. The stripping of titles and the eviction are the monarchy's desperate attempt at public self-cleansing. Yet, it is precisely this humiliation that may become the psychological trigger for Andrew to detonate the £25 million time bomb, transforming his personal bitterness into the bestseller that Buckingham Palace fears more than any other crisis.